Welcome back, everyone. The first thing I want to note, if I'm not sure how much this is being made known throughout the crowd, but we're currently trending on Twitter in Madison. Those of you who are Twitter people know that that means there's a lot of Twitter activity going on around the BLE. So how many of you have been tweeting? Oh, that's so fun. Great, great. Well, I'm going to start off with a question, and then as the theme team wraps up thoughts from this last session, I'll ask some of the questions from you all that have popped up. So the first thing I want to ask all three of you to reflect on cuts across all three of your presentations. And Lily, you started off saying that you had an inward journey that was made public, or you made it public. I'm asking the three of you to reflect on what you see as the connection between what you know about inward focus versus focusing on the broader world. So more specifically, should we as human beings focus on our own internal happiness, our internal flow, perhaps, thinking back to Mihaly's presentation, when even our bodies are not entirely our own, only 10%? Very fascinating. I mean, and we've heard so many reasons to not be parochial, right? With respect to global warming, to look at evidence beyond maybe our own purview, or the spread of AIDS, to have a broader focus, to notice when lethal viruses are coming our way or are coming throughout the world. So I'm just wondering how the three of you think about that balance between the need for an inward focus and for focusing beyond ourselves. Whoever would like to go first is fine.
Well, I think we need both. I think that both an internal and an external focus is really critical. I think that so much of our culture is externally focused, and I think that often that requires a commitment to focus internally as a counterbalance to the external pull that we all feel. One of the, we were asked to reflect on the implications of what we do for the public university, and I think one of the implications is having spaces within our university where we can be quiet in order to cultivate that kind of internal awareness, which then I think helps to refine our external focus, and I think the two are very much complementary and can be in balance.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Yeah, I think, look, in terms of my personal journey, probably what, and you find this out over the years, I mean, probably what I would most likely like to do would be to look for completely unknown forms of life. But, I was brought up with a healthy dose of Jewish guilt and other things, so it's sort of preventing a pandemic seems a little more reasonable if I'm not going to be a physician or a lawyer. But I think it's just also where you fit in time. What are the problems that you happen to be engaged in, and at the time when you happen to be alive? If you happen to be alive at a point where you can be, your focus is on the cosmos, and you can think about going to Mars, then you're pretty lucky. If you have your thing that you're focused on is at a much less developed state of human knowledge, then you may have to go about just finding simple answers.
Great, thank you.
I think I always remember the Greek.
Yeah.
Oh,
There you go.
right.
There you go.
This ancient Greek philosopher Heraclitus.
Pull it down just there you go.
Yeah, Heraclitus.
Can you hear okay?
And he said that, is that right? Yeah, good. He said that what we have is this, what we want to know is that, the cosmos. How can you know that? By the perfection of this. I just always remembered that. And I think it's intimately connected because our mind shaped the way we look at the world. And we project, and I think our panel said, how do we interpret the world we know, or how we interpret the world we see? I don't know. It's intimately connected. And for me, it's just, I try to find my own authenticity, and it just manifested it all over the world. And I wanted to, I used to want to make art and have somebody write about it and sell a bundle of money and have vacation somewhere. It's a failure in that. And then I realized what the blessing the failure brought. It brought me to a different realm that shaped my life, that changed my life. And so I feel that one is the other. And also, the mind and the heart, like in my essay said, Xing is the same word in the ancient Chinese pictogram. And so we separate maybe the mind in materialistic way, that's the intellect. And then the heart is the feeling. But actually, in the well-being, meditation, and happiness, it's intimately connected. And how we feel happy has to do with our immune system and everything else. So I don't feel it's exclusive, but it's connected. Yeah.
Wonderful, thank you. I'm going to ask a question that came up earlier, I believe, after Richie's presentation. I'm going to modify it a little bit because I think at least Nathan's and Lily's as well is relevant. Is the mind the master, or is it a different part of our biological being, microbes perhaps? What is it about ourselves that is the master of our being? It's a big learning event, right?
Not microbes.
I would say that what I've learned as a student of both the brain and the contemplative traditions is that actually the very question is really, I think, should be framed differently, because what we've learned is that there is no master. And that once we can directly experience that, then a lot gets put into a different perspective.
Oh, that's great. Anyone else?
I feel a lot of the work, I do those work, but then I don't, because it's really driven by a vision. And it's like an artist. It's not just you produce visual arts, performance, and so forth. For me, it is a way of life. And I define art, in addition to visual performing arts, it's really creativity in thinking, methodology, and implementation. And so when one is giving a vision, and in a way one has the obligation to realize the vision, because it's given, it's a gift, and one has the obligation to realize it and pass it on. Otherwise, it is wasted. So in this sense, it is coming from somewhere else, and not say, so-and-so did this and so forth. And so, again, where is the master? Mysterious, right?
Thank you. Here's a neat note from the theme team. You'll appreciate this, especially Lily, that a mosaic has emerged on the wall of ideas. Here's another question for you all. What would compassionate education look like?
I would be happy to say a few things about that initially. First, let me say that in our own work, we've been moved to get out of the laboratory and into the real world, and one of the real world settings in which we're working is in education with children, with preschool children, with elementary school children, because of the conviction that, in fact, kindness and compassion actually can be taught. And if it can be taught, let's try to teach it, and let's try to do it in public education and look at the impact. And we're doing that now actually in the Madison public school system. with 5th grade children and then following them to see how this affects their development. And I think, though, that the best way in which it can be taught is to have individuals who are in the presence of children who embody these qualities themselves. And it is through the embodiment of these qualities that I think the most effective learning can actually occur. And so I think this is an important message for both our educational system, but also for training teachers and for thinking about us in our role as parents and adult exemplars. We are constantly affecting the brains of our children, and knowing that and knowing how our behavior has that kind of impact, I think, can make a difference.
Great. Please.
Go ahead.
Sure.
I think very simple. The first thing we need to do is by listening. I basically feel all sentient being has intelligence. You know, like the animals, what do you call that? That changes colors.
Chameleon.
Chameleon.
Mm-hmm.
They intuitively know. And when the turtles, little turtles break from the eggs, they know where to run to go to the sea. And young children, they have different personalities. They feel when it's not just, they cry, they make gesture to let you know. And I think adults often make the mistakes that, well, we know better, they don't know, so we impose our will on them rather than listening to what they're telling us. They are a force of nature. And since I came from the academic world, but now I work in the community, I want to share just briefly one experience. Mm-hmm. And when we're doing work, and then so reach a certain point, so the funders say, well, you can not just build and build and build, you have to make plan. You have to have a feasibility plan. And so, okay, we say, well, let's get university, urban designer, and architect students, and come and talk about how lead the planning process. And the interesting thing is that this is Germantown, an inner city. It thrived up to 1950. And so the students, with their PowerPoints, with their internet and everything, came to our community and just say, up from 1900 to 1950, this community thrived. Germans came, and Eastern European came, and Jewish community came, and blah, 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 blah. Until 1950, then it's the white flight, and everything broke down, and then community in the deficit. And the community people were so upset. And he said, in this picture you drew from the internet and all the study, it totally denied our contribution. We're the one in the gutter and trying every day, protect our children, keep our houses safe, and we don't exist except the red mark on your map. And so one thing I said, when we go to community, there is profound wisdom. The heartbeat of our community lies in those places. Where does the hip hop all over the world now, where did they come from? From the street of urban youth. They have nothing to do, nobody recognizes them. So they start graffiti and they start breakdancing. They say, we are here. I show you our power of creativity. And so that's one would be compassionate education, is open the ground, be more democratic. Yes, academy show the academic world gets more and more specific, and technology amazing, like the microbiology and all that. But yet there are human wisdom in places that we have not often ignored in every living sentient beings. That would make more compassionate education, I think.
Thank you. Nathan, what do you think? What are you thinking?
I'm not going to try to follow that one.
Fair enough. Here's another great question from the blog.
This is a tough crowd.
Yeah. We have a big need for scientists and engineers, yet we also have a need for art to encourage creative thinking. How do we get the best of both worlds in an era of shrinking resources in education? Nathan, you want to go first?
I think it's a good question. I think, I mean, look, we are experiencing some fundamental challenges as a nation. I think about this, our funding is largely dependent on U.S. government. You know, U.S. government is not going to be able to continue to spend money in the way that it's been spending money. And I think we're all going to need to be able to be creative in different sorts of ways. I mean, the other thing I might say is that I think there, to a certain extent, the distinction is a little bit of an artificial distinction. I mean, really what we need to be pushing for is for people to, and I think this is a good panel to sort of point this fact out, which is that in some ways you tend to think of artists as one type of person and scientists as another type of person, but the reality is, and I think this even alludes to the earlier panel, what we really should be looking in life as educators, because I think most of us are to one extent or another educators, is to find that sort of inspiration, maybe the, where's your potential flow? Where is the potential for you to be in that middle space, or the widest middle space, and to help, whether it's artistic endeavor or scientific endeavor, to encourage people, push them into that space so they can be there. And I think, look, at the end of the day, the more you have the creativity, the more the resources will follow. I don't think we all have, whether it's art or science or whatever endeavor, I don't think we need to be thinking to ourselves that there's only, foundations are going to be key and large donors are going to be key and government's going to be key, but it's also going to be key to let people pursue ideas that will generate revenue. I mean, if you look back at, for me, I think Google is a great example. These were a couple of kids doing computer science at Stanford who basically wanted to solve a problem in artificial intelligence. And along their way, they basically said, okay, well, this is something that can get us launched and help us go. It ended up being much more than that, but I don't think we should bias ourselves in one way or another as to how we're going to be able to do this. And maybe I'm being a little bit sort of optimistic, but I think help to launch the creativity and value, and then maybe that's the initiating step rather than trying to surf up cash.
Great.
I feel culture and art create assets and create wealth. I give you an example. You don't always have to have a lot of money to fix abandoned buildings. Take that as your educational opportunities. That's where you can get your students to be inventive. You don't need more resources. It's right there. And art, to be innovative in education, turn your deficits into your wealth. Turn the difficulty into benefits, and turn the darkness into light. That's life where it is. I give you an example. You saw the Rwanda project. I'm an artist. I'm barefoot artist. I don't have personal wealth, and I don't get a lot of money. The artist grant always very little, but that doesn't stop us, because when in darkness, in broken places, creativity, yes, is creating beauty. It's like striking fire in the middle of the dark winter. People come. Because I went to the abandoned, the village, people were so sad and despairing. And I said, no language, no shared experiences. How do you work with people? So we got paint, and it's all gray wall. I said, let's just make something very simple, painting on the painting patterns. And there are the survivors, they don't know each other. They were thrown together. They suffer in their solitude, and they do not trust. But because of working together, it builds the foundation of the beginning of a community. We help to build the infrastructure, the software of the community. Then Engineer Without Borders came. Then the health, University of Florida, Jefferson University Medical. They want to health. They want to energy and health and whatever. And so the engineer said, well, they do toilets, very good toilet, but it's not so interesting and inspiring just to talk about toilets. But when you have places that you do dancing and drumming, you have painting, and it draws people together, and then suddenly a multi-dimensional coming together. And I tell you that Survivors Village, and before 7 years I was there, before 3 weeks every year, but we staggered the program in such a way different people come. And then when I went there, nobody smiled, no resources, no money even to buy a bar of soap for adults. And now, not only that they have micro lending, they have all kinds of different industry, animals and animals, goats, chicken, and good health, and the last year, rainwater collection devices. And last year, 2 years ago, I brought a solar engineer there. They know how to create solar panels, not from Europe, not from Africa, not from China, but right from the Survivors Village. And now almost every household has cell phone and cement floor and so forth. So culture and art and science, creativity, that underlies all. That create wealth. We create wealth. We can.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes,